gesungen, von Jesse kam die Art und hat ein Blümlein braucht, mitten im kalten Winter, wohl zu der halben Nacht. Lo, how a rose blooming from tender stem hath sprung, of Jesse's lineage coming, as men of old have sung. It came a floweret bright, amid the cold of winter, when half spent was the night.
No mention is made of Nazareth in any of the promises. Surely the Savior could not come from there. To this, the evangelist Matthew responds, Joseph went and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled. He shall be called a Nazarene. By this he means the label Nazarene, applied to Jesus with reference to his place of origin, already an established fact by the time the gospel was written down, reveals that he is indeed the heir to the promise. Here, Matthew is not referring to any particular scriptural passage, but to the prophets overall. Their hope is summed up in this designation of Jesus. In this verse, Matthew presents exegetes of every era with a difficult problem. Where among the prophets is the source for this word of hope to be found? The New Testament uses the two labels, Nazaraios and Nazarenos, in reference to Jesus. Nazaraios is used in Matthew, John, and the Acts of the Apostles. Nazarenos is used in Mark. Luke's gospel has both forms. In the Semitic linguistic world, Jesus' disciples were known as Nazaraioi, whereas in the Greco-Roman world, they were called Christians. So now we must ask quite specifically, is there any trace in the Old Testament of a promise linked to the word Nazaraios that could be applied to Jesus? There are two principal approaches toward a solution. The first is based on the prophecy of the birth of the judge Samson. Of him, the angel who announces his birth says that he will be a Nazarite, consecrated to God from his mother's womb to the day of his death, as his mother recounts. One argument against this suggested etymology of the label Nazaraios as applied to Jesus is that he did not fulfill the criteria of a Nazarite that are given in the book of Judges, especially the alcohol prohibition. He was no Nazarite in the classical sense of the term. Nevertheless, it could be said of him, in a manner far surpassing such external details, that he was totally consecrated to God, completely made over to God from his mother's womb to the day of his death. If we recall what Luke says about the presentation of Jesus, the firstborn, to God in the temple, and if we keep before our eyes the way John's gospel portrays Jesus as the one who comes completely from the Father, lives wholly from him and for him, then we see with extraordinary clarity that Jesus was indeed consecrated to God from his mother's womb until his death on the cross. The second approach sets out from the idea that at the root of the name Nazaraios, one may detect the Hebrew word Nazar, which is found at the heart of the prophecy of Isaiah 11:1. There shall come forth a shoot, Nazar, from the stump of Jesse. This prophetic saying has to be read in the context of the Messianic trilogy formed by Isaiah 7, a virgin shall conceive, Isaiah 9, light in the darkness, unto us a child is born, and Isaiah 11, the shoot from the stump, over whom the Spirit of the Lord rests. Since Matthew refers explicitly to Isaiah 7 and Isaiah 9, it makes sense to assume a reference in his text to Isaiah 11 as well. The unusual element in this promise is that it extends back beyond David to Jesse, the father of the tribe. From the stump that seemed already dead, God brings forth a new shoot. He launches a new beginning, albeit one that remains in profound continuity with the earlier history of the promises. How could one fail to be reminded here of the ending of Matthew's genealogy, which on the one hand is steeped in the utter continuity of God's saving action, and yet breaks off at the end and speaks of an entirely new beginning, as God himself intervenes and brings about a birth that is no longer the fruit of human begetting. Indeed, we have good reason to suppose that Matthew detected in the name of Nazareth a prophetic reference to the shoot, Nazar, and that he saw the use of the designation Nazaraios for Jesus as a sign of the fulfillment of God's promise to draw new life from the dead stump of Jesse, upon whom the Spirit of God would rest. If we add that in the inscription above the cross, Jesus is called Ho Nazaraios, John 19:19, then the title acquires its full resonance. What at first sight refers simply to his origin actually points to his essence. He is the shoot. He is the one completely consecrated to God from his mother's womb to the day of his death.